Hello and welcome to Forum Crashers, the internet advice show for all the forums we were never invited to. My name is Steve. I'll be your host, and I'm here with Gerald.
Hello. Thank you for not inviting me.
Yeah, we finally just decided, no one's invited. We're too busy creeping around, doing our thing. We just don't know.
Nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody. We've owned up to it. We're not supposed to be here, and we welcome you, though. So...
You're invited.
Whatever that means for you. Of course, we like to stalk the forums, mostly the Reddit forum for advice down there, and links down in the description. All the questions have been paraphrased because most of them, honestly, are a novel. They are very long. And if you want to read them, go for it. Otherwise, we'll jump into it. First question comes from Godbound. He says, how do you go about introducing new players late into a campaign? And he means literally new people to your group.
Good question. Wow, it's been a minute. I have done this several times, so late can take on a few a few meanings. Sometimes late for work is 5 minutes, but late into a campaign might be epic levels. I really think it's going to be the same approach. You need to first figure out, just like when everyone's coming into a campaign, you need to ask the question of why are the characters there? Why are they going to be meeting? Even at the beginning of the campaign, you need to answer the same question for this character. Usually if you can give a description, make sure, I think the best thing you can do for story is have it make sense. It can be comical, and if your group is fine with it, with the story being not as cohesive, just for ease of play, I mean, it's fine. Especially if you're doing a dungeon crawl based campaign, unless story based. Like you meet this guy in whatever surface level reason. That's fine. But this sounds like a question that, like, for someone who is really more interested in story, is if you can figure out why it works. You think about where the characters are and what motivations someone might have to be there that would make sense to align them with the party. That you don't want to introduce the character in a way that the players would reasonably think that this might be some other antagonist, or they might need to fight them, or they have to prove themselves. And unless all of the players involved think that's the fun thing to do, and again, tables vary. Have that understanding, of course, going in, but just make sure that the character has a way to become an ally and it makes sense in the story.
I've got an idea. Hear me out here. I'm going to walk you through a scenario.
All right.
Your BBE has acquired an unbelievably powerful gauntlet, and when he snaps his fingers, it wipes out half of life.
BBE. Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know why you said BBE, and I thought the robot from Star Wars.
Roly-poly robot. Yes, this little droid has accumulated great power. And he doesn't have fingers, but somehow he snaps. Wipes out half the life in all of the universe, and your only hope is that the guy that's been orchestrating all of your missions can summon a character you've never met before that he swears is the most powerful character ever. And before you get to play the next game, the next session, all of your players have to watch the new player do a solo mission with a bunch of other folks. And
that sounds like an extreme amount of fun for one player involved in the game.
I think, for a game that I set up a while ago, friends, family, and the likes thereof, I made it very clear with the first few players that, hey, this is the core group, and unless we have the core group here, we're not playing. So if other people want to jump in and that sort of thing, that's fine if they want to jump in and play. I kind of left the missions, the way they were set up, open for like, hey, you're going to have someone tagging along on this one kind of deal. But as far as like the core players, we only play if they are there. And from there, if anyone else wanted to join in, because let's face it, if you're introducing someone into a game that's been going on for 7, 8, 9 months, they don't have nearly as much invested as these folks.
Yeah, that's a good out of game question to ask. I was focused on the story, but yeah, what's the level of dedication to being able to be there? If you're in a game where everyone's consistently there and committed to being there every week or every other week, and you're going to be introducing someone, yeah, they inherently don't have the same investment for the campaign that far.
Yeah. And if it's your new significant other, maybe the answer is no for now.
Yeah. Significant others can make, I've heard of them making messy situations in games.
I'm talking someone you've been dating for like 3 to 4 weeks, and you're like, hey, have you heard of D&D?
Yeah. Now, I have done that.
They might be confused as to what D&D is.
Yeah, right. I have done that in the past.
No?
The players were all okay. I've DM'd primarily, so I again found ways to introduce the characters in the session and made sure that they had a good understanding and interest in playing the game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it can.
If you're good at moving characters into and out of a story, then I guess it's less of a concern.
If you're good at managing your love life, yeah, baby, you can come on over, but only on Tuesday nights. So yeah, there's some different things to consider there. The real world player, then also the in-game players. As long as it makes sense and everyone's on board, the whole point is you want to have fun. And if adding this element, whatever it may be, and it doesn't even have to be a player, it could be changing the game night. If it's going to cause a problem for somebody, then you got to rethink what you're doing.
Right.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Next question we got here. This one comes from Sharp Cucumber. Sounds dangerous. Is GM Burnout a crash? Oh, wow. I watched that one. Is GM Burnout crash a thing? Can you get burnout?
Burnout/crash. I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard of such a thing.
Never, ever. You're terrible at playing the game.
20 years, I've never, ever heard it.
Not once was I like, oh, dear God. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of that. I think burnout and crashing is probably one or two things or a factor of both. One, failure to be able to draw inspiration. If you're a DM and you are just stressed, and that's going to affect your ability to really dive into your imagination. If you have no time to think about the game, that's going to be real world burning you out and keeping you from being able to dedicate the time, because being a DM does take time. If you have the time, I've not really seen it being a problem, but if you're running out of inspiration, it's usually because you can't just enjoy imagining and thinking of what you want to do. But people run dry. Writers run dry. Fantastic authors. J.R.R. Martin has taken many, many, many years between novels to come up with what he wants. Granted, that's a very complex story with a lot of moving pieces,
right.
But yeah, I mean, you can run out of inspiration, but if you can't balance your real life workload and family, whatever life you have going on, yeah, it's reasonable. I've played in games with DMs who said they're burned out, and I don't always understand. I mean, if you have one of those people, you're gonna learn soon if there's the type of person who's not going to be able to stick with it and run campaigns. There's no real way to.
So when you're getting tapped out, because it happens, right? Where you're like, okay, they did this, they killed that, and they're just crushing it. What do you have, like a place you go to mentally, physically, whatever it may be, to kind of try to find a little more of the juice? Get some of that juice.
So yeah, I've certainly had points where I've wondered what's coming next. Or where I need to go next. So listening to the right music can be its own inspiration. I suppose if you haven't done that, I think the way our brains respond to music puts us in a certain place. If you listen to music you enjoy while you're writing, the same as when you're testing, as research shows, you're going to be able to, your mind's going to operate more efficiently. So I always love putting on some epic music soundtracks, 2 Steps from Hell, Audio Machine, all those, the likes of those. And sometimes if I'm going a little bit darker, some metal.
Wow.
Yeah. absolutely. But yeah, mostly as something you enjoy. But I found because of probably movie soundtracks and what you usually hear when you're seeing those awesome scenes, this cinematic events in fantasy, that type of music, the epic music, is probably a good one source of inspiration. You really just need to be able to separate yourself from the stress, the mundane, honestly, to be able to go into your head, and whatever helps you do that, whether it's sound canceling headphones and music or a nice dark room that you can hide yourself in.
Yeah, I think part of it too, it's healthy to realize when you're getting in a rut, because you can end up going to the same well to get the same, I guess, the different story drivers and things, and it's like, okay, God, there's another guy stranded by the side of the road again that needs help, so if you start to see yourself doing that, sometimes it's healthy to just try something completely different, to quote the great Monty Python.
Books are a great inspiration. Movies, books, any fantasy story in any format is going to be full of not even just fantasy. Like I said earlier, Walking Dead, particular characters that being able to enjoy your time experiencing other stories is a great way. And
speaking of Walking Dead and other shows like that, something I learned from watching these shows, it's like one of the reasons I don't watch too much like Netflix or whatnot is because they get you on the hook every time. And what I've learned is that a lot of these shows, it's like, what is the worst possible scenario I can put these characters in? And that's what I want to end the show on, right? That's like, oh God, the zombies are crawling all around the tank, and then next thing you know, it's like the guy gets out of that situation, no problem, right? The reality of it is your players are brilliant sometimes, most of the time I'd say. They will find a way out of just about anything you throw at them. So if you're trying to just move a story along, and maybe they're collecting artifacts or whatever it may be, instead of making it like, what's the thing that they're chasing, what is the worst possible situation you could put them in? Start thinking like a true menace to society with your characters, and you will start getting interesting results. Different thing to try, anyways.
That's true. Players often like a challenge, and they'll let you know if they feel like it's been too difficult.
If you're trying to kill them all the time. So, perfect, friends. Well, hey, that's all the time we have for today. We appreciate you tuning in. Check us out on our Actual Play podcast that we do every Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. Myths and Mystics on Twitch. Check us out over there. If you want us to answer one of your questions on the show, it's mythsandmystics@gmail.com. Check it out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.